Welcome to the Center for Universal Oneness. We are an open, welcoming, spiritual community that supports all faith traditions and invites you to join us on your spiritual journey. We host different speakers each week to guide and inspire us. We are guided by universal principles of acceptance of all that is sacred, and we strive to live in the oneness of love. Please enjoy this presentation.
So I'm excited to hear from Reverend Barbara this morning, and I'm going to read you just real quick. I admit I'm reading a little bit about her. Ordained in both Unity and CSL, inspired thousands to create new careers, fulfilling relationships, and experience fulfillment and satisfaction. Wouldn't we all love some of that? Reverend B, as he's affectionately known, has the capacity to create a safe environment for participants who attend those workshops and lessons and then leave her presentations inspired to action. So there you go. Maybe after today, we will all be inspired to action. Reverend B, tell us what you have, please.
We welcome back this morning Jan Phillips, who has an extraordinary resume that I'll just quickly look at. Some of the author of 11 award-winning books, published in the New York Times and Newsday. Some more stuff here. Music videos and 7-hour audio programs. She teaches throughout the US and Canada, facilitating retreats on evolutionary faith, mysticism, and prophetic action. And there is such a long list of people here that she's worked with. It's extraordinary to go and take a look at that and see how influential she has been. So today, Jan is going to speak to us on facing the change, what it means to be a creator of the future. Jan, welcome back. It is great to see you again.
Hey, it's good to be here again. Feels like it just happened.
Yeah.
So I feel really privileged to be part of this community, and I've just been pondering for all of us. I think that since COVID, we're now kind of on the other side of it. So we're looking at, it's almost like BC and AD. We're looking at before COVID and now. And for me and for most of the people that I'm involved with, there's a big difference in who we are and how we are in the world. It's like been a major line of demarcation. And even though it's been a tragedy for many, many people, the families, people we've lost, there's been a tragedy. But when we attempt to become non-dualistic thinkers, which is the aspiration we're up to get ourselves beyond that binary thing, this is good or bad, right or wrong, black and white, consider what was the upshot. I remember hearing, I read this in a magazine the other day, that Kurt Vonnegut, before he died, put a Post-it note on his neighbor's car windshield, and it said, "Your planet's immune system is trying to get rid of you." And when you think about that, it kind of feels like, holy cow, maybe that's what's happening, because we're such parasites and we're so destroying this living organism. So in a way, it might have been that kind of wake-up call from our mother saying, grow up and start acting right. The other really amazing outcome from having this disaster in our lives is that we learned how to find each other and how to communicate with people. We never knew how to do this before, right? It's almost like the subatomic particles translating non-locally with each other. That's us. We're non-local. I'm in San Diego and you all are somewhere else, and amazing things can happen. before COVID, we never had that quantum leap in our ability to find each other. People all over the world are talking with each other. So just to attach the goodness to the disaster of what we've been experiencing for the last couple years. And so who are we now? How do we show up now? Because we've been changed by our world going through that bump. And we're at it's like a mid-course correction. Something happens, life stops, and then we get to reevaluate, see if you need to change your portfolio and put more in stocks instead of bonds or whatever, right? Only it's not a financial portfolio, it's the portfolio of our lives. But it's the same thing. You consider, somebody would say, what level of risk are you comfortable with, right? And I remember being in the convent in 1967. I entered the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet, and I learned the formula for bliss there. They never know they were giving it to us because they were like anti-bliss. But I found myself in that context experiencing more, I don't know, rapture, more so joyful to be alive, to get up. Even though there were very weird constraints and ridiculous rules, I had this really rooted joy. And I didn't know at the time, but I figured it out probably 20 years later, that the reason I was living in such bliss is because they constructed our lives in such a way that they were perfectly balanced. It's a lot like the military. When you go, I don't know, I've never been in, but I think when you go to boot camp, you're not in charge of your time. You don't just say, at 2:30, I'm getting a massage, right? They got you scheduled out every minute of the day, just like us. Bell rings, 5:30, get up, get to the chapel, right? And so there was this whole order of the day, which we had no control over. But when you look back at it, when I look back at it, I see that it was, if the day is a circle and a piece of pie cut in 4 parts, the parts were prayer, service, community, and solitude. Lots of community, lots of time together with the sisters, a lot of solitude. We had to do meditation 3 times a day. We had to go walk and say our prayers, do the Stations of the Cross, a lot of prayer, and a lot of service, work. Some of us were involved with taking care of the older sisters. The novices all cleaned the house. We were always on our knees, scrubbing the floors. Sometimes we went out into the world and taught, catechism to young kids. But it was one part of every day: prayer, service, solitude, and community. And I was a disaster after they kicked me out. They let me go after 2 years because they find out I'm gay. And I had never had a plan B. So I was just a mess emotionally. I was only 20 years old, and I just didn't know how to handle it. And I always thought I could only be happy if I'm in the convent, until it came to me that I could construct a life with that same kind of balance, and that might do it for me. And that's exactly what happened. So I start my day now with, it takes about a whole hour morning practice, but it starts with get my coffee, light the candles on my altar, which is right at the other end of my bed. While I'm drinking my coffee, petting my kitty, I'm just going over my dreams. And then that part is done. And then I look at my candles and all the things on my altar. And then I begin my prayers. I have 2 rote prayers from my Catholic background, Memorare and Morning Offering, which I've had to rewrite totally, because the old prayers dismiss or insult my soul. So anytime that we in this day and age encounter something that isn't a good fit, not right with our consciousness, that we change it. You can keep the prayers if you like, because they're cellular to us. But to be able to take out the sexism, take out the old notion of God in the sky, right? I've rewritten the Our Father. I've rewritten the Apostles' Creed. It's just called an Apostles' Creed because every one of us should write our own creed. Even looking at the slide this morning, I keep getting Google coming up on my thing. Even looking at the slide this morning where you talk about Christ consciousness is our foundation. And I thought about that and I think, I wonder how any one of them would describe Christ consciousness. Because if I'm an outsider, say I just came here from Afghanistan, or I'm new to the community, I have left my Pentecostal faith, I'm looking for something more appropriate. I don't know what Christ consciousness means. And so it would look like a door to me. Oh, I don't belong there. So I think it's kind of incumbent upon us to make our invitation to people into our community simplified to the extent where maybe just put the principles that Jesus, don't use the word Christ, use the word Jesus, get them to have an image of that man who is all about justice, mercy, and kindness, and identify yourself with those more simpler traits, because that's who we are. I mean, I've been hearing conversations. You lost one of your members recently, Ida was her name, and now you're all pondering how will we graciously let the family know her meaning to our community. You're all very Jesus-like in your approach to life. And you would be that way if somebody knocked at the door. If it wasn't virtual and you had a place and someone knocked at the door, you'd be very welcoming. You'd be very Jesus-like. But if the first thing they see is we're guided by Christ consciousness, they might not feel it. So we want to be really sure in all the areas of our lives that we're simplifying the work that we're up to. And I think if the more and more we do our work, the better we should be at describing what we're up to a 7-year-old. You know, I work in really complex areas of, quantum physics and metaphysics and mysticism. But in my work, I try really hard to always have it on the tip of my tongue so simply that I could say to one of my little cousins when he says, "What do you do?" In a real simple way, what do I do? So we're back to now we're creating our lives. First step, we create our personal lives. We're creating our family lives by how we fit in it. My family doesn't understand me at all. So I have to find very creative ways to fit in. I went to Scottsdale last year to do a TED Talk, and my brother lives in Phoenix. So I stopped at his house and I said, I said, I'm going to stay overnight because I'm going to Scottsdale, do a TED Talk. And he goes, what's a TED Talk? He has no idea, right? He voted for Trump. So we're very different, right? So I found out our common ground is we cannot sit in his living room and talk about anything, that we always go jeeping. He's a master Jeep guy. He's in love. His altar is the desert. And we just go jeeping, and we're 12 years old and 9 years old again. And it's a beautiful thing, but I had to create that because he wouldn't have any ability to figure out how could he and I have a magical relationship when we're living in these dangerously polarized times. And so it's up to us who have that higher consciousness, who have that commitment to thread together our faith, our lives, our relationships. And so the very first most important part for all of us is to begin our day in a conversation with mind at large, who is our invisible dance partner. We never, even the old God that was presented to us is a God that they always put it to me like to us in our classes in Catholic school. God is so beautiful, you couldn't see his face and live. It's a very mysterious thing. But it just so happens we've had to grow up learning to relate to a God that we couldn't see, but who really is actively animating our lives. And so I sit like a satellite dish. I'm very comfortable. I'm in my bed. I'm looking at my candles. I'm not closing my eyes. I'm just kind of staring into the candles, finish my prayers. And then I have 2 poems that I say, my Thank You God by E.E. Cummings and Consolation by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, because I memorized them in high school. And then it's my time to just open up to get my bulletins from immortality, as Emily Dickinson calls it when she says, the only news I get is bulletins all day from immortality. That beats CNN any day. So how does it work, right? People are so resistant. So many people say, I don't have time to meditate. That's the first thing they usually give for an excuse. I remember Deepak Chopra once saying, time is a man-made construct. If you need more, make more. It's in our hands. There's nobody else running our lives. Every day we wake up and we have time and we assign it. We do what we want with our time. And so to be mindful about how we're going to create our time and to be able, and I say just 10 minutes, you don't have to worry about doing it 20 minutes. I probably just do it about 15. I never count the time, but it's just the period where I say, okay, I'm really listening now. I hope you know I'm listening. I'm ready for your messaging. And it's not stressful. There's no effort. Effort is the problem, not the solution. So many people get disillusioned because they don't feel the buzz or the hum of it or the something's happening, right? But that only happens as a reward after you've been doing it for some time in the dark, just doing it because you believe it's possible to be in communion with the primary source. So that is requirement number 1 on your pie chart of balance, which leads to bliss, is to have that thing figured out called prayer, which in my mind, I really don't do much prayer with people, But every single day, I do my prayers in the morning. So whatever your resistance is, whatever people, I often encounter people go, oh yeah, I used to meditate. I don't know what happened. I don't do that anymore. And I'm like, I'm alarmed inside, because to me, I had to get up an hour early today before this, which is already early enough for me, in order to have my prayers so I could prepare myself. It was not like, oh, dang. It was like, oh, good. Because I want to be in that mode when I'm with all you. So think about it. Why don't you? If you don't, what's the real reason? Because if you tried it and there was no rewards, just rewards aren't part of the equation. Prayer is just an opportunity. If you have a new lover and the lover says, I'm available Friday night, you come over and you're totally in love, you would never say, don't have time. You get over there so fast, you get a speeding ticket. I have driven through blizzards to be with the one I love. And that's the thing. I think it's the depth of your love. It's the depth of your longing. And I'm not talking about being a spiritual seeker. I always say, people say I'm a seeker. I go, oh, that's too bad. You're still seeking. I hope you find it. I hope you find it soon, because I don't know what's going to be the evidence that they found it, but I found it. I'm not seeking. I'm having my morning dates every day. I meet with my loved one every day. So I think once we get that spiritual component figured out, what does it look like, your prayers? Just 10 minutes. You could set your timer. You could even use a meditation app on your iPhone. But 10 minutes of solitude. I always used to say, don't have your kitties and puppies. And then I just got a kitty. So now I'm testing the waters, and I realized I really shouldn't have my kitty, because it is beautifully distracting. So that part, the prayer part, the solitude part, those are two things, because in your spiritual practice, it's the same as like if you were taking a bubble bath. People can't come into the bathroom and say, where are my socks? That is your dedicated time of solitude. If you're having a massage, dedicated time of solitude. You cannot be interrupted, right? So you have to establish, if you live with other people, what are the rules now for your prayer time? Where are you going to be? Same place every day. What do they have to know to respect that? That's a very important element. And if I had a woman in a retreat once who had real severe ADHD, she couldn't focus on anything for, more than a minute. And so she was trying to figure out, I can't have a spiritual practice because I can't focus on anything. And I said, start with a minute. Just start with a minute. And the other day I got an email from her. She goes, I'm up to 4 minutes. It was like, she's making progress. She's a pilgrim on this walk, and she's progressing. So solitude and prayer, right? Service is the other part, the important part of the equation. And my guess is every one of you on this screen, I need to get the gallery thing so I can see you all. Every one of you is doing service in some way and being useful. I just overheard how you're being useful to Ida's family. So I know that you're committed to being of use, that you're making things happen in your community. And so I probably don't even have to review this, but I'm only going to add one thing about it, because this summer I went out I was driving across the country on a book tour, and in Des Moines, I have this problem, I forget what it's called, because I have such terrible neuropathy. When it's pitch black, I lose all orientation. I don't have any feeling in my hands and legs, and I don't know where I am. Even in the shower, if I close my eyes, I start falling. So I'm in Des Moines. The family for sleeping put me up in the attic, and there was my bed, but the light was far away. And there's this spiral staircase that goes down to where's the only bathroom in the house. And I'm petrified because I already know I'm going to have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. So I wake up, pitch black. I can't even navigate to find where the light is. And so I fell out of bed and I broke my collarbone. You could see it broken right in half. And then I have to drive from Des Moines all the way to New York with broken collarbone and do 3 or 4 more gigs, teach and sign books and all that. And I couldn't drive my car home. I had to fly home. And then next thing I know, I'm in the hospital getting a blood transfusion because I had anemia. So all of a sudden, this vibrant, healthy, athletic being is bedridden practically the whole summer. And I have to figure out, how am I going to do any service? I can't be starting a 501c3. I can't go drive the migrants to the airport. I can't go buy food and take it to the food bank because I can't move my arm. So my service department changed pretty radically. And all I could do was call up people. Every day I'd call up someone I loved and told them I loved them. And that was probably more valuable than taking food to the food bank. So it's pretty simple when you look at it and you think, how am I praying? Doesn't matter what you do, nobody's business, what you believe, nobody's business. I'm a post-theist, right? I don't even have a God up there in the sky, it's in the air I breathe. So it doesn't matter. We're all at different points on this journey. But the thing that matters is that we commit a few minutes of each day to our relationship with our invisible dance partner, who's animating our life and providing us with occasions to show up as spiritual warriors, as lovers of life, and to have that service component appropriate to who you are. You could be in a wheelchair. You figure out how to do service from the wheelchair. It's not hard. If you're having trouble, call me. You can find me on my website. I'll coach you into what's a good service that'll work for you. So that's basically it. That's called creating our lives. And it's called doing everything we can from our point of view as matter. We're like the particle form of divinity, whose essence is the waveform. And so we are God that can be seen. We're that version of God that can be seen. So much is in our hands. And face it, we've all had very bad training from all our churches. That's why we're renegades with a church with no pastor, because we are the people. We are the prophets of these times. And you are doing a brilliant job. You have found each other. You're a force in the world, and you have great dedication. So I thank you for reaching out to me. If you're not on my mailing list, then you did not get your bulletin from immortality from me today. And that's a shame. So I'd say just go to janphillips.com and sign up for my newsletter. And every Sunday morning, you get a little notice from me to support you in the great work that you're doing. And so because we've been so misinformed, badly educated about God, about sin, about how we are not up to it, we're going to look at a 5-minute video now, which will help shift our thinking about who we are. Think of yourself as a thought of the Infinite One, made flesh by your sheer desire to see and be seen. Think of yourself as nature, looking upon nature, in awe at its grandeur, in tears for its wounds, nature loving itself, healing itself, speaking out for itself. Think of yourself as a vessel of stardust and clay, a child of the cosmos, transforming energy into matter, wave into particle, mortal into immortal. Think of yourself as a soul who took on a body to be of use, to radiate love and receive it in return. Think of yourself as necessary, purposeful. Remember that you came here to light the world. Think of yourself as a shaman whose hands heal whatever they touch, as a storyteller whose words fall like rain on a drought-stricken land, whose stories are medicine, miracles that heal the sick and raise the dead. Think of yourself as a circle holding yin and yang, as unity cradling the dualities in your arms. Think of yourself as a thought leaning toward radiance, an early dawn rising into daylight. Deep inside you, the fire of creation burns day and night. Atoms forged from the Big Bang spin and swirl in your blood and bones, your lungs and your legs. Like salt in the tear, joy in the laughter, the Holy One is in you, being scattered like seeds across the land as you speak and write and reach out to touch. You are the hands and feet, the eyes and ears of the great beloved. You are the one we are waiting for. Your stories are the ones we are waiting to hear. It is time now for each of us to speak, to say what happened and what we learned. To reveal ourselves is to heal ourselves, and to heal ourselves is to heal each other and the world entire. From our revelations of intimacy and truthfulness, vulnerability and generosity, the future takes shape and enters into us. Our words made flesh, our thoughts made real. Yes, think of yourself as a creator, the peace you desire, the justice you cry out for. These will come as we speak them into being. As the cosmos is being created by the mind of the Infinite One, this world is being created by the minds of the finite ones, by us. Let us be mindful and full of care for the words we speak, the thoughts we think, the stories we tell, for these are the tools with which we build tomorrow.